It's not often that we get fights in back-to-back weekends of college wrestling, but when you have rivalries as intense as Iowa versus Iowa State and Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State, these things tend to happen. Now, AJ Ferrari may not have started the fight, but he definitely did finish it. And we don't know exactly what happened yet, but I'll be getting into that. And I honestly wasn't expecting to make a wrestling headlines video this week because I didn't think there was going to be a ton of news. But boy, was I wrong. So let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name is Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling, your source for college wrestling news and discussion. And on this week's wrestling headlines, first off, I apologize because I was sick over the weekend, and I'm still getting over that cold. I'm a bit congested, but I do hope that you are staying healthy this winter season as we get into the holiday Christmas season. And the first bit of wrestling headlines is that Logan Massa is officially returning to Michigan, or at least it seems so. Michigan's head coach tweeted this out last week. Those who stay, with a photo of Stefan Micic, Miles Amin, and Logan Massa. I wasn't convinced that Massa was going to return this year. He just had a baby in the offseason and maybe wanted to spend some time being a dad and being a family man. But no, yes, of course he's doing that as well. But he also wants to spend time helping Michigan potentially win a national title this year. He registered for the Cleveland State Open over the weekend. Unattached for Michigan, got a fall, 2 tacks, a major, and a decision to win the championship. Now, Massa is going to add major firepower to Michigan's lineup at 174 pounds. I mean, so much firepower. He's a multiple-time All-American. Last year, he placed 5th. But I do want to put out a small disclaimer because 174 pounds is one of the toughest weights in college wrestling, and there are a couple guys who are now bumping up and added in. I mean, Hayden Hidley, Mekhi Lewis, and then you have Carter Sirachi and Kemmer at the top there. I mean, Massa is going to have a fight there, but he could add 10-plus points to Michigan's team score this year. I mean, that just inches them closer and closer to Penn State and Iowa as they compete for the team title. Now, Micic back. I mean, that's huge. Soriano's transferring to Michigan. I mean, both of those guys I don't expect to start until January, but wow. And then now Massa is back and Miles Amin. Michigan in their 100th season is looking absolutely incredibly tough. They could win their first ever national title. What do you think? Is Michigan going to win that national title this year, or is Penn State and Iowa still too tough? The second guy who's returning this year, Mark Hall. Mark Hall is going to be wrestling at Midlands. After winning the U.S. Nationals in May, Penn State National champ Mark Hall announced his next competition. On Instagram, he put out, "My next competition will be," and this photo of Midlands 2021. That is huge. Now, you may have forgot, but Midlands is actually an open tournament, so high school wrestlers can wrestle in it. Yes, high school wrestlers. College wrestlers can wrestle in it, whether you are wrestling for your team or unattached, as well as guys who are in post-college can compete in it, like Mark Hall. Former teammate Vincenzo Joseph actually commented on the post and said, "Hey, bro, you're going to be like the 4th oldest at the tournament," which I thought was just kind of funny, just kind of mocking that, some of these guys are competing in like their 7th or 8th season there. But we could see Mark Hall competing against some of these guys that are on his own team, because you may remember that Mark Hall is a volunteer assistant at the University of Pennsylvania. So he could wrestle somebody on his own team. Now, what weight could he wrestle? He wrestled 174 in college, but he wrestled 86 kilograms in freestyle more recently. That's 189 pounds. So I'm guessing that he's going to be wrestling 184 pounds at Midlands. Could he jump up to 197? Maybe, but more likely 184. So that means you could see him wrestle Abe Assad of Iowa, John Poznansky of Rutgers, Bernie Truow of Cal Poly, and it's his own guy at UPenn, who will all be at the tournament. Over the weekend, there were some big dual meet events, and you see them scrolling across the bottom here, all these scores, but Kharchla had a big upset over the weekend. Ohio State's freshman Carson he's looking better every single week. He was undefeated going into the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational, and had a close loss to Shane Griffith. That was his first and only loss on the year so far. A national champion Shane Griffith, I mean, that's not a bad loss to have when it's only 5-4. Yeah. Well, this weekend, he earned his 13th win of the season over 2021 national finalist Jake Wenzel. A big win. Now, he beat him 4-3 with takedowns, and what a match it was. He started out early on and scored a takedown on Wenzel. Actually, it was later in the first period, but Wenzel was able to quickly escape, which is a veteran move. Being able taken down at the end of the period, but getting an escape with 15 seconds left. That's a veteran move. That's why, reason why he was in the national finals last year. He was able to do those type of important things in a match. He earned another escape in the second after he took bottom. And then in the third period, Kharchla actually took neutral, which honestly was a smart move because Wenzel is tough on top. Well, it worked out in his favor because Kharchla ended up taking him down, got Wenzel in a danger position, got the takedown. Wenzel escaped, but couldn't get any more points. Ended up winning Kharchla 4-3. And Ohio State ended up beating Pitt pretty bad, 30-7 overall. I mean, Wenzel was supposed to be a guy who won in this match, but Kharchla, I mean, he has been on my watch list, but now even more. I mean, 165 we know is a tough weight, but it's a weight that's like cursed in a way, right? Freshmen often win this weight. Vincenzo Joseph, Mekhi Lewis, Shane Griffith. Could Kharchla be next, or could it be another freshman like Keegan O'Toole? I mean, what a weekend, though, for Carson Kharchla, who is this week's Fanco Wrestler of the Week. AJ Ferrari, let's get to this Oklahoma State situation because, and I'll talk about that in a second. But first, I have to talk about Bedlam because a couple key points from the duel. Dom Demas of Oklahoma, actually, we found out, is bumping up to 149 pounds. He wrestled previously at 141. This was his debut of the season, but he lost to Caden Gefeller 9-3. A great performance by Gefeller. Also, AJ Ferrari with a win over AJ Woodley, a 6-3 win. He was doing a little bit of antics at the end of the match, just some entertainment, but it was on the mat, and that could have led to this post-match kind of scuffle. The only win that Oklahoma earned was at heavyweight when Heinzelman earned a win over Serber. Going into the bottom half of the lineup, because this match started at 149 pounds, Dayton Fix is just looking absolutely like lethal with a fall over Madrigal, and another guy who's looking tough in the lineup is actually Dustin Plott, who earned a major decision. And then the freshman Carter Young finished this duel. He ended up finishing this duel 9-4 with a win, and he's looking pretty darn tough as well. Now, let's get into this post-match scuffle because, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I was watching this duel, and I almost turned it off, and I'm happy I didn't, because then, like, as soon as I was about to click X out of on my iPad, boom, I see a major scuffle, like everybody piled up in the middle of the mat, and I was like, what's going on? Well, what happened is Oklahoma's heavyweight and AJ Ferrari were saying something to each other. Heinzelman and Ferrari were saying something to each other. We don't know exactly what that was. Their heavyweight shoves Ferrari. Ferrari gets down and blast doubles their heavyweight. And I kind of tweeted out, I said, this is kind of Ferrari looking for his move up to heavyweight already, which I thought was funny. But, like, with this post-match antics stuff, right, we saw this happen last week in Iowa versus Iowa State. Now it happens in Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. Yes, fumes are, like, rising high. This is an intense rivalry, but I never really love to see it. I mean, do I like to see it? Sure, it's entertaining, but I don't think it's ever really good, and it's probably going to lead to something. I mean, somebody's going to probably get suspended a match. I mean, if AJ Ferrari's suspended a match, he'll probably be sitting out against Air Force next. If you're interested in a couple other wrestling videos, make sure you check these ones out here, or click subscribe to stay updated on the latest wrestling headlines right here on Fanco Wrestling.